it do? What it do? What do? What it do? What it do? What it do? What it do? All right, there we go. I wish there was a way to set this as the background before I got started, but I don't know how to do it. So, something to figure out and learn. I am 3+Kei. I am here to encourage you to pursue the smile by prioritizing the Lord, your physical health, and persistent education. This space right here is called the Art Club. This is a community for Christians and the Christ curious to come alongside one another, ask questions, be a friend. Be a friend. Be loved. And there's a song that goes with it all. Hey, Lord Puppy. Lord Puppy. I don't know why that deserved a shimmy, but that's what you got. Welcome to the Secret Heart Club, everyone. Does their part to bring love, be loved. Hey, we love Jesus at the Secret Heart Club. You do deserve all the shimmies. Just, I wish more people shimmied. I'ma just keep it a buck. That's how I feel. I think we would have less problems in the world if we all did a shimmy before we went into work. Or, those videos with the teachers that make the cool handshakes with their kids. If we could get that going in the entrance of our jobs, like your supervisor, your manager came up with like a little shimmy, and then you entered in, and there was a clapping as you entered into the office, instead of trudging in. This is how we make America great. I'm always thinking about ways to make America great. That's one of them. Children. I watched this interview today, this poor lady, and then I read the comments, and it was like, oh, this happened a while ago, but a woman got fired, a lunch lady got fired for feeding the children that came back and said they were hungry, and then she would pay the school back out of her own money. And so they fired her, they said, because she gave her grandchildren free meals. And she was like, yeah, I did do that. I gave a lot of children free. If you were hungry, I gave you a free meal. And so anyway, they fired her. And I was like, oh, she needs to go fund me. I read the comments, and it was like, and then she died. She was a lunch lady for 14 years. They fired her, and then she died. Womp womp. Poppy says, I work from home, though. I heard about that. The school board is a bunch of punks. Let me tell you something. I'm going to talk about it now because it's over. I didn't say it at the time. Every year I do, for I don't know how long, 12, 13 years now, I do what's called a Kwanzaa project because people don't know what Kwanzaa is. And especially in Montana, right? And so every Kwanzaa, I would tell people about Kwanzaa, and nobody cared. And then I was like, let's do the first day of Kwanzaa is Umoja, which means unity within your community. So every year I pick a nonprofit. I don't tell them. I pick the nonprofit, and then basically I get my friends together and we raise money for a nonprofit. And so every year it goes pretty great. And 2 or 3 years ago, I picked I ascertained, well, first of all, I had to dig to find out what the poorest elementary school was in our town. I feel like that alone shouldn't have been difficult. And it ended up even not being the school. I think it was just through research. Somebody researched it for me, and we found out it was one school. So then I not only called the like public school like center, the board. I also called the principal. I called the woman in charge of school lunches. I called the vice principal. And the whole goal was to pay off all, like zero out that school's lunch fees, lunch tickets, you know what I mean? That were left from the poor kids. Because obviously you're not paying because you can't afford it. It was so disheartening that I to this day I've never heard back. And then the only reason why it kind of upsets me is because the lady who's in charge of school lunches was on the news crying about how there's a $10,000 deficit. Like a few months after like we tried to raise the $10,000 for the school lunches. Incredible. And so it begs the question, like you had a lot of people who were interested in paying off the debt and across the board, like, so do you really want the debt? Is there a reason that always follow the money? Always follow the money. Is there a reason why a school would not want the children's debt paid off? Is it for grants? Is it? And I hate to, but that's what happened. That's what happened. And what I ended up doing on Facebook, I posted, can somebody tell me, give me somebody who would be worthy of us raising money for? Because time had gotten short. I spent so much time trying to like find somebody to talk to. And somebody nominated a special education teacher at a different school, and they were like, I know her personally, she's been spit on and kicked and blah blah blah. And I actually, just as in the course of my own job as a social worker, I knew of her as well, confirmed, called around. And then I went on to her school website and it had a list of her favorite things. And then I called her supervisor and we got her, oh my gosh. And then we called her. And the interesting thing about this woman is that what she requested, and mind you, we were prepared to raise thousands of dollars. I'm tearing up a little bit. We were prepared to raise thousands and thousands of dollars. This woman, in her humility, only wanted $250 worth of items for being a special education teacher. And so needless to say, as soon as I told the first person, they just paid that. And then one of her favorite things is popcorn. So I always want to say this. There's a place in town called Corn Utopia. And I went to them and I said, listen, there's this teacher, blah, blah, blah. Her favorite is popcorn. And they made a whole basket for her because one of the owners used to be a teacher. And yeah, stay tuned for what the Kwanzaa Project will be this year. It's always local, so it's probably not going to be like a 3+Kei thing, but yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys today, landing on oddball Christians. Oddball Christians. I got the term from Baptized by Fire. Loved it. Loved it. It really sums up how I feel. I'm an oddball Christian, doing my best. I'll show up. I'll try to fit in. But at some point, probably gonna demonstrate some type of oddball behavior, and people like me are not alone. And I was thinking earlier what the profile for like an oddball Christian might be. you know, and some people are just kind of off. Maybe you're on the spectrum, you know, maybe you're just like ridiculously unserious, like myself, you know. Maybe you're too serious. Maybe things just, do you know what I mean? But you don't quite fit into how you're supposed to behave in these settings. And so that lends a hand to just natural social consequences, you know, alienation, rejection, this kind of thing. And it's very, very painful. And the term for it is called church hurt. And it creates a situation where many people then leave the church or leave Christ altogether. They're like, this person was mean to me, so now I'm going to go sleep with everybody. And it's like, hear me out. Hear me out. What if, right, you retained your relationship with Christ and you continued to strengthen your personal relationship with your Lord and Savior instead of turning your back on him, right? And we are called to a local church. We're called to fellowship. So you still show up, right? This Secret Heart Club is not meant to replace any church. I'm just saying, if you're weird, you can come here. And whatever weird might be, you still love the Lord. You're still pursuing the Lord. It's Christ's side over this way. It's also Christ's side, and you want to wear a Batman costume. I ain't gonna say nothing about it. You know, I just don't have one. It's probably why I'm not in one. You know, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. As long as you're building on your relationship with the Lord, that doesn't look any different. But who you are, like who we are 8 billion different people. And then we try to fit into these boxes. And for most people, because there's comfort in numbers, most people are willing to fit into the box. So that I don't have a complaint about that. For some of us, though, we can get really uncomfortable and disoriented trying to fit into that box. That's all I'm saying. I'm trying to clarify that. Oddball Christians. Boop. I just want to tell you guys about 3 things that happened today, and I was just very, very grateful. I'm super tired. I'd like to go all in on Pursue the Smile, but anybody intelligent would tell you, don't quit your job. Don't quit your job. Save up for a year, and then go all in on what you're trying to do. Thankfully, I work from home, and I have a great job, and a job that's like understanding of what I'm doing on the side. So there could be a bit of a slower rollout and a more comfortable rollout. But anyway, I was talking to one of my supervisors, and I really like her. She is maybe agnostic. She's kind of like hippie-ish. She used to work in the trenches, and now she's like it's called a regional clinical supervisor. But she didn't just get her degree and now she's in charge. So like her vibe is pretty cool. And we always end up talking about something great. She's one of those people who is okay with learning. And so I was telling her, yeah, over the weekend I did a powerlifting competition, my first powerlifting competition. And she's like, that's crazy. My friend just gave me a book called Lift. And it's about the history of women's powerlifting and the history of like the female aesthetic and what a woman has been and the many ways women show up today. One of them being like a physically strong person. And so I just really, I liked having a conversation with somebody, and it's so rare. And I would encourage you, in light of this Charlie Kirk shooting, I I'm not gonna watch any more news because it's all over the news. And I will say this. I was watching a news conference with, I think, the press secretary or whatever, and there was something, there's like a, there, so Charlie Kirk died, and we don't know like who shot him, but there's this like villainizing of the left for either celebrating or not caring. And I think this, and this is where, you guys know I don't like performative stuff. You have a bunch of people coming out like, oh, you know, he's my hero and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, you know, is it not understandable? Like, can you understand? And I'm not agreeing with it. Okay, I want to be clear. I'm not agreeing with it. But can you understand that there are people who he incensed or inflamed so much that they just don't have the same emotional reaction? And to that, I remember like Nipsey Hussle died. The rapper? Do you guys care? Like, did anybody from like this side of my life, did any of them care? No, he was just like a thug. And it's like, no, he was so much more than a thug, right? And so even with Charlie Kirk, it's like, you know, he really stood up for free speech. And it's like, yes. But also over here, they're like, he really incensed people toward violence. And it's like, either way, like, you really don't have to. Now, the celebrating, I don't know. I can still say, like, I understand, like, where somebody's coming from with that, even if I think it's wrong. And then there's, I just read this article like an hour ago about how professors on his watch list are celebrating and getting fired and blah, 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 blah. One of them is a professor here in town, Tobin Shear, who is a African American studies professor. So for context, I actually enrolled in that class and then unenrolled in that class only because, and you can judge me if you want, I don't care. I did not want to be taught African American studies by a white man. Feel how you want, but that's what, and that was 20 years ago anyway. However, he is a pillar in the community and one of the co-leaders of thought in this community. And he was on the watch list, and he was explaining in his letter that he's had death threats and all this sort of stuff. And so even then, which I had no idea of, but it's like, even if I was like, you know, let's say there's a guy named Barbarino, you know, and I was like, Barbarino, pursues violence, like likes violence against people or whatever. I would say about Barbarino, and I'm telling this to 200,000 people. Somebody is crazy enough to go dox Barbarino. Now then somebody's like, hey, Lakeitha, you putting this information out here, this guy's information out here is harming him and his family, even if I'm right. Because Barbarino shouldn't be talking about violence, even if I'm right, or kicking puppies or whatever Barbarino's into. Even though I'm right, if I know an action I'm doing may kill him, that's a problem in and of itself too. And so there's so much going on with this Charlie Kirk thing and people being unable to think independently of their bias. You can love the man and be like, that watch list is crazy. If like you know what I mean? Or you could hate him and be like, that's really crappy that somebody killed him in broad daylight like that. Like, two things can be true at the same time, and there's such a lack of that being presented in the media, and like everybody's either doing like the tears, and they have the I talked about it yesterday. I didn't put his name in the title for a reason. It's just like it's so sensational, and everybody, let's talk about it so we can get monetized. Please, I want to encourage you guys, just as my supervisor is reading a book about powerlifting and she's not a power lifter, I want to encourage you guys, like, more than likely, there's only 4 people on here watching right now. More than likely, you only associate with people who believe the same things that you believe. And I was saying this to somebody else the other day. I used to not understand like the trans thing at all. I was just like, that's kind of gross. That's just kind of gross. But I took the time to like talk to trans people to be like, what is that? Like, what's going on? What's up with that? You know what I mean? And now I understand more of the thought process. And it's like, oh, like you really think this? That's really sad. Like, that's really unfortunate. That's sad, you know? Go talk to him. Or I used to hate cops. So I went to like a cop community outreach. Learned about some cops. Helped me in my relationship. My favorite person in the world is a retired cop. I'm glad I had that experience finding out about cops before I entered that relationship with my favorite person, the retired cop. So I could have more calm conversations about it. I know it's uncomfortable, but when we don't, and to Charlie Kirk's point, what he said again and again and again, at the point where we stop civil discourse, that's when violence begins. Because we villainize the other party. When you get on your silly little moral high horse, you're gonna judge the other person. Well, they're just bad. Maybe not. Probably not. Probably not. They just think something different. And just as you have most likely been indoctrinated with whatever you're thinking, they probably have been indoctrinated too. And so that's one thing I would like to get into as we go along with the Secret Heart Club and Pursue the Smile, is just like how to have discourse. How to talk about Jesus in a way where you're not like, we're not the ones saving the soul, right? Like, there's no need to be so uptight and get mad at people when they reject Christ. You rejected Christ. For how long? Me, 30 years. Praise God. He was there when I was ready. All right. Yeah. And speaking of my supervisor that is reading about stuff she doesn't know, I'm reading a book called Quiet about introverts because, I am not an introvert and don't really like introverts prior to reading this book and starting on this journey. But prior to starting on this journey, I would have said introverts are kind of like suspicious. That would be the wording I would use. Why are you so quiet? Why are you so quiet? What are you, why am I talking so much? Why are you asking so many questions? Suspicious. So I wanted to learn about it. And what I asked my introverted friends, because I don't have many, Ben, Leslie, Afton, I have 3 out of all the friends I have, 3 introvert friends. And so I would ask them, what do you do with your knowledge? because used to have an introvert friend. She would just be reading all the time, and it's like, what's the point of reading if you're not going to like tell people about what you're learning? Like, I could not comprehend it. So that's what I'm learning about. I'm learning about people who are different than me. Why are you so quiet like that? Why are you quiet like that? Stay tuned. I'll tell you more about it. Second event today. I had a client. I just want to tell you what she said, because sometimes people say things to you and it's the most unlikely person. So I was updating a treatment plan with this client, and she was just talking about having a brother that is in addiction, and he can't stay with her because it's an apartment, and when you live in an apartment you can only have somebody up to so long. And she was trying to tell him, your clothes are here, your toothbrush is here, like you can come in and out as much as you want to, you just can't like stay here, my brother. But she said it just takes one person to believe in you more than you believe in yourself for you to do a thing. In this case, she was talking about addiction, but I took that to heart. Not everybody believes in Pursue the Smile. And when I tell you, I am at the point, if you're in my life, like in any part of my circle, like small circle, medium circle, big circle, and you're not with Pursue the Smile and the task I'm on, you gotta go. You gotta go. I was talking to somebody the other day, and he was like, do you want to hang out? And I was like, yeah, come on the live stream with me. And he's like, oh, no, I just want to, like, I'll just come over and we could just hang out. And I'm like, at no point, sir. Like, we got to be doing something. I can't just sit on the couch. I am not sitting on the couch with people. That's not a thing in my life. We need to be live streaming. We need to be working out together. You can do a hike or a walk. You can come out with me on an Uber trip. Do you know what I mean? I can interview you. There's a number of things we could be doing besides sitting on a couch, talking. I don't get that time back. And then you get like my vibe. You get the vibe, not in a cocky way or an arrogant way, but like I'm a good friend and I'm affectionate. You know what I mean? Like, you get loved on, and then I get in my head, I'm thinking like, what isn't being done? Like, I'm sitting here, you know. Anyway, let me finish up what she said. It just takes one person to believe in you more than yourself for you to do it. But you won't be successful until you believe in yourself. So you have to believe in yourself to like complete the task. But the thing that can get you going in the first place is like a little rah rah, go go go. And so I wanted to make sure we're taking it back to like a biblical stance on this. We want to carry one another's burdens. If someone's going through a thing, you want to be able to walk alongside them. At some point, they're going to have to walk on their own. Your journey is not my journey. My journey is not your journey. But we can walk along together. I can hold your bag, carry your burdens. I can carry your bag, your heaviness for just a little bit with you as a friend, as a sister, until you're ready to walk it out on your own. Amen. I just love that, because I just think about the people who believe in me, and I go in waves. All the time. Like, what am I doing? Who's gonna want a community of oddball Christians? Who's going to want a community where you show up in your Batman costume and then recite scripture? Who's going to want to do that with me? And it's interesting, many people at the end of the day, many people, even like the long list of interviews that I have lined up. I am, sometimes, you guys know me, I'm not like a crier, but I will, when I think about it, sometimes I tear up the support I have, even yesterday. So my merch is about to be sold in a salon. First of all, just for the salon owner to like let me do that. And then second, I put out a text for like if anybody has a case or shelves or anything. And my girl Joshly did. And then I got over there and her boyfriend was like, "What's the James house?" And I told him and he connected me with like another contact. And it's just like, yeah, people really do. So on the days like today, where it's just like, does anybody care? Like, does anybody, are people just, do people just want to like fit in the box? Do people just want to fit in the box and be left alone about it? I don't. I want to find people who are the oddball Christians who are serious about pursuing their faith, you know, and aren't afraid to show up in the Batman costume because not to be special or weird, but because that's just who they are, you know, just saying. I love that. I love that. And I think it'll ride until I'm like, it sticks in my head that like, oh, this is something that's happening. This is like a thing that's like happening. There's some motion to it. So I want to thank you guys. Allison! Last thing, I was doing Uber and I picked up this girl. She was so cool. She was so cool. She is an entrepreneur. She is like a multi-award winning graphic design artist. And she was forced, it happened by accident. She was a graphic design artist for a company and they folded and she had to figure something out basically overnight because the rent be renting, you know, she needed money. And so she put out what are like bids and she explained that process. Because when you get to a higher level of like graphic design, like let's say you wanted to submit something to like Microsoft for one of their products, what she told me, what I understand now is that you have to submit a bid, like what the impact of the logo is, why it matters, blah, 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 blah. And so it took a little bit, but she won her first bid. That floated her until the next thing. And so she's like a high level. If you think, yeah, like if Microsoft built like electronic dinosaurs and they called them e-dinos, it would need a logo to go with it. You would put in for that logo and then you would get a crap ton of money for designing that and royalties and whatever else, I'm sure, for designing that logo. And so that's what she does for a living. And she had to go to the dentist and she was like, she works between 16 and 20 hours a day right now. And she's like, the only reason I left my home was to go to the dentist today. And I was so grateful. And I was asking her all sorts of questions about entrepreneurship. And she also does like branding and marketing and blah, 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 blah. And I asked her more. I'm always like super curious about the people around me. And again, I want to encourage you guys too, like, ask people questions about like who they are and what they do and what they like. And if you hate pizza and they say pizza's their favorite food, ask them what they love about pizza and what their favorite, you're like, it's missing in our society. This is why these things happen. Because we only hang out with people we like and think like us. It's so stupid. It's like the dumbest thing in the world. Hello. But yeah, and I won't say what her advice was. I'm just going to apply the advice instead. Um, I was just very grateful. I was very surprised. And she actually took my card and said that she will be in contact with me. And I don't know what that means, but I mean, the advice she gave me alone was, I'm just very, like I said, like, see, I'm like tearing. I'm just like always surprised that people are into Pursue the Smile as a community. If you're one of the 4 that are watching and you're wondering what is Pursue the Smile, we're here to encourage you to pursue the smile by prioritizing the Lord, your physical health, and persistent education. We're a community of Christians and Christ curious people, and we're just ourselves. There's somebody here who likes sports cards, and then Jackson's 9 doing stuff, and people have babies and whatever. Like Ben's got the fish thing going on, and the common denominator is that we're like kind of doing our own thing, but collectively pursuing Christ. And I just want to invite you guys into this. It's a live stream every single night, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Actually, no matter where I'm at. So tomorrow, hate to tell you, I'm probably going to be at Costco. We'll talk about it later, but that's probably where I'll be. Allison says, me and you are alike in that way, Key. I inquire on people the same way. Ask the question. Also, I'm going to ask my neighbor, the vet, if I can interview him. I know I talked a little smack. I did a whole live stream about how upset I was, because he's so friendly and he talks so much. But if I could say, and I should probably tell him to his face too, if I could say, I was so depressed. And this is the other thing, keep in mind, I understand my personality can perturb people because you are miserable. And when I was miserable, my super friendly veteran neighbor irritated the crap out of me by doing nothing but talking. Keep that in mind the next time you're perturbed with somebody. But I would love to interview him. You guys would get a kick out of him. He's an old Navy vet. Poppy says, I love babies. Ugh. Yeah, my client said she's pregnant today. I didn't nibble. She found out this morning. I didn't nibble on her at all. You guys would be pretty. I'm growing as a person. I did hug my elderly neighbor today. So I don't know how much. I love the elderly, little old ladies. I also love my vets, and I love pregnant women, and I just want to just a little bit. Right? Hold on a second. Yeah, I don't know what to say for myself. Just a little, like, you know what I mean? Just a little bit. Not too much. Poppy says, I love babies. Babies are the best. Yes. Little fat babies. I want another baby already, girl. Allison, oh, me too, to be honest, Poppy. Your girl, 3+Kei, has never... I used to, when I did, because for any men on here, women have, like, urges to, like, have a baby, specifically. And obviously the Lord made us like that so that we'll have babies. It's not just like the urge to have sex, which is a different thing. That also will get you to having the baby. But the Lord makes the woman at times have a strong desire. So I'll tell you, one time I went to the car dealership, pulled up on a Miata. You guys know what that is? Two-seater. Two-seater, baby. Bright red. And so I don't know why I do this, but I'll go pick out my car and then buy it the next day. Anyway, I went to go buy my car the next day, my little two-seater Mazda Miata. Tell me why I looked over here and saw a green minivan. And in my mind, I was like, but if I had, knowing I never wanted to have kids. If I have a baby, they're going to need I drove off the lot with a minivan. That's the craziest example I have of like the female urge to have a baby. That's why when women are like, and respectfully to when the men say, I know what it's like, or I feel like a woman, that's that hormone and that in your brain, like God gave us that in the brain to want a baby. Like I literally don't want a baby, but I will have moments where I'm like have an urge to have a baby specifically. It's wild. Allison said, you've got to respond to my last email, by the way. They pricey. Oh, Lord Poppy said, I know I will. I'm slacking because she's been cranky. Allison says there's a bunch of support though through WIC programs and sometimes family, but yes, they are. It helps if you keep the older kids baby stuff. Yeah. Poppy says, oh, trust me, I got all of that SNAP, WIC, Medicaid, all his stuff for her. If we do have another, I'll just keep her stuff. Right, LOL. Allison said, I vote for Key Babies. I think all the way. Do you know one thing? So I have a friend that's a therapist, and her clientele is only domestic violence women. And I said, hit me with some dating advice. And she was like, have your 3 yeses and your 3 nos, and do not compromise on them. And so one of my yeses is obviously got to be a godly man. One of my nos, if I ever get married, he would have to have a vasectomy. And the reason why he would have to have the vasectomy is for me to go under, what is it called? It's not litigation. Tube ligation? Tying the tubes. That's a major surgery, right? Or you want me to put cancer-causing chemicals in my body? For a man to get a vasectomy is just a little shoop, shoop. And they ice it. You don't even feel it. The only reason you feel it is because the ice wore off. And then on top of that, this is gonna be graphic. Everybody with kids around, don't put the phone down. Put them away. Put the kids away. But when when the man has the vasectomy, he has to have like 9 emissions in like such a period of time, or it's like 3 a day or something like that. And I think that's like a fun little activity you could have with your husband. You understand? So it ain't for me. I won't. I would not, when I think about the man for me, he would not want me to go through any sort of like altering. He wouldn't, he would just be like, oh yeah, I can do this 3-minute procedure. I got you, babe. Just for me, just speaking for me. I ain't having no babies. I'm so glad I'm getting to the age. Okay, so one thing, I don't know why men think this. But one thing a man will tell me is, I want to have babies with you. I want you to have my children. And I don't know why they think that's an attractive thing to say. Somebody's out here. There's some women out here that are like co-signing this, which is why the men think that's a thing that they should be saying. I'm gonna run from you. I'm going to tell you straight up and down. That is not for me. Now, do you want to adopt? Because that is for me. I would love a baby daddy for adoption. Poppy says, I'll have a baby for you, Kei. I love being pregnant. Great. Allison says, haha, I know, but I would come live in Montana to babysit for you. No, but the baby is attached to me. I breastfeed. I don't think vasectomy is okay to God, to be honest, because we're meant to have children. I understand your position, though. Then that would mean, do you mean in the way of like family planning then that there should be, then you shouldn't get your tubes tied either? Or take birth control? Because I would say if a man can't get a vasectomy due to there being no more children, then all forms of birth control should be completely off the table. And I understand that there's certainly a group that has that thought process, but is that your thought process? I'm gonna run from you, but you still adopt, so I respect that. Heck yeah. I think it would be okay, Allison. I could have died this pregnancy. I'll do it again. What? What? No. We don't want that Poppy. We want a Poppy in our lives. I'd have another baby. Heck yeah. Sheesh. Yeah, I don't. And I'll tell you guys what it is. And I don't know if it's like an immaturity thing but obviously I was traumatized. So when I was 12 and we went through sex ed, and so in Illinois, and they might have done it, they might do it differently now. You tell me. Allison's like 10 years younger than me. You had sex ed when you were 10, 11, and 12. So 10, the girls, or you would learn your sex's like puberty stuff, like what was about to happen for you in puberty. And then at 11, you would have like a different sex ed, and you would learn about the other sex's puberty and what they're doing, because you're probably seeing it like boobs or deepening voices or whatever. And then in 7th grade, the sex ed was about sex. And here's what happened. It was science class, and it was Mr. Griffey, and he showed a video of a woman giving birth. And I don't know if he meant to leave that sound on, but he did. He did. And that was a no. I saw that, heard that. It wasn't even the seeing of it. It was the hearing of it. Like the pain was with the sight of it. And you could see what she was screaming about at 12 years. I promise you, at 12 years old, I was like, nope, ain't gonna happen for me. But here's the funny thing. Even at 12, I knew I still wanted to be a mom. So somehow I ended up with foster parents. And I was like, oh, I didn't know you could take somebody else's kids and raise them as your own. Because I grew up in the suburbs. So like, it was just like 2-parent households, white picket fence type vibes. You know what I mean? And so there weren't really there was nobody adopted around. And especially my foster parents were white. So like it was really, you know what I mean? Like I would kick it at my friends' houses, but not like, hey, you're one of us now. I didn't know that. And then once I knew that, I was like, oh, I'm going to adopt. And then my mom, when I was 19, told me, don't get married and don't get pregnant in your 20s, which was good advice for me. It's not good advice for everybody, but it was good advice for me. And when I was 30, I started fostering and then adopted my 2 girls over a course of years. So that's how that happened. And whenever in my 20s, I felt like I had that urge to be pregnant, I would watch a video of a woman giving birth and be like, oh yeah, that's not something that I want to experience. I'm okay. Let's see here. Poppy says the odds of happening what happened to me again is probably very low. However, I don't know if I could do a C-section again. I was having a panic attack. Yeah. Allison says, no, it can't be okay because that would imply God made a mistake and you have to change his creation. We're all meant to be fruitful and multiply. Genesis. That is clearly the purpose of the woman per God's eternal punishment onto us because of Eve. It's what the Bible says. I didn't make it up, I promise. No, that I understand that thought process. Yeah. Allison says that's a very strong thing for you to say, Poppy. That's awesome. You would do all of that for your child again. I would also. Oh, my phone is low. Yeah. And even to that extent, I would rather be single for the rest of my life than get pregnant. I don't want that for me. You know? And I went to a church. This is another point of how Pursue the Smile came to be. And they were like, so you're not married? And I was like, no. And they were like, why? And I was like, you know, I think it would be difficult. What I would require of a man is not finances. It would be that he has his own personal relationship with the Lord. He also, secondary, must be a free thinker. So like me being a power lifter is something to be celebrated in his life. Me not wanting a baby, like him not planting his seed in me to like conquer me, that I don't want that should be celebrated. And then I say like, and I hope you understand what I'm saying, but like I have big cojones. So like this guy would have to be bigger, bolder. He would, like he just, and a free thinker. And so I'm sure that exists. I will say this too, and the ability to what am I trying to say? I'm thinking of a guy in particular, the ability to soften me to like where I'm like okay to just rest in being allowing somebody to take charge. And I'm not the type of woman that's like an independent woman where like I have to be in charge. I'm not like that at all. It's just that the people around me necessitate that I have to care for myself and look out for myself. And there's a certain type of man for a woman that will allow her to relax. Does that man exist in 2025? Yes, but super rare. Super rare, and I would rather not compromise because I see some of y'all, and not y'all on here, I'm not even some of my friends, in relationships where it's like y'all coupled for the sake of coupling. Like, no. All that stress. Don't stress me out. Allison says, that's a very strong thing for you to say, Poppy. That's awesome. You would do all of that for your child again. Hey, I'm not knocking you, Key, but I'm gonna be honest. My first boy, I felt absolutely not a thing because of the girl. I did say that if for some, God forbid, listen, God forbid, if I ended up pregnant, oh my gosh, just a God forbid. But if I ended up pregnant, y'all, they can pump me with every drug known to man. I don't want to feel a thing. I want to be high as a kite for real. Like, I really mean that with my whole chest. I would not want to feel nothing. Here's one thing, though, that they don't tell you. I worked at a maternity home for 4 years. So sometimes women would tell me when I was like a little younger, oh, it doesn't hurt that bad or blah, 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 blah. No, here's one thing that used to happen, especially when I first started there, I worked overnights. And what they don't tell you was common in pregnant women. There's a lot of common things in pregnant women is the Charlie horse. The Charlie horse. It's potassium deficiency. That's a real thing. That'll knock you down. And that's just a Charlie horse alone. One time I had diabetes. I was fat. I was like really fat. I had diabetes, drank a little piece of sugar, talking to a pregnant girl right here. I threw up. Her pregnant self looked at me, walked away, and then threw up on her own because she was sensitive to it. I know women who have teeth rotting out because the baby took the calcium. I know women that have all sorts of bone structure complications, back complications, hip complications due to being pregnant. So it's part of why I love pregnant ladies so much. I hope you guys are hearing my heart and know me well enough by now. I just don't want to be pregnant. I love it for you. I love you being pregnant. I just want to, just a little bit. Around the belly button area. It's a little bit. I love pregnant ladies. Allison says, I felt everything with my daughter and was, screaming, and the nurse told me to be quiet. I wanted to fight her. And then you've got this kind of stuff happening in the hospitals too. Lord Poppy says that nurse shouldn't be a nurse, right? And if you look at the stories and the statistics, this is very common, like the racism of nurses. Look at what was it? One of the Venus Williams, Serena Williams. They weren't listening to her, and she was like, if I could be this rich and famous and still have this experience, what is it? What are other women experiencing? So then there's that part. There's that part too. Not for nothing, I got into a car accident two years ago. A year and a half ago, I got into a car accident a year and a half ago and had to go to physical therapy. And the girl would not believe that I was in the pain that I was in. It was incredible to me. And she actually, I don't want to get into it too much, but I stopped going because I was like, hey, Scott. I stopped going anyway. Now that I work with a trainer for powerlifting, he gave me some exercises to do with and my shoulder, I can do this. Like, it hurts when I do this. But I couldn't do, like 4 months ago, I couldn't do this. And this is as far as I can go. For context, I can go all the way. And this is as far as I can go still. And I was dealing with a physical therapist that like didn't believe my pain. Why? Because I'm a happy person. And there's more into that, but yeah, so who wants to do that? Giving birth without having somebody there to fight that nurse. You feel me? Like, you should get karate chopped. I just saw this video. This woman was like, give me my baby. And the nurse accused her. The woman had her on camera the whole time. The nurse called security and said the woman who had literally just got birth somehow magically got up out of her bed and pushed the nurse. And then the nurse, oh my gosh. Obviously, the mom was incapable, or else she probably would have done something to that nurse. But the nurse, if this was the baby, the nurse was in front of the mom with her hand over the baby like this. Bro, I had to stop watching the video. I was like, I would slap, and I'm not a slapper. I don't slap people. I would have slapped that nurse. Allison said, after 4 babies, I actually liked the hospital experience and having a baby. Haha. Maybe I'm the weirdo. Hey, we found your thing. We should have a group time one time where it's like, what is our oddball thing? What's our oddball thing about us? Not okay to cover a baby's head. Well, it wasn't. It was like the baby's. It was like over the baby's belly, like the whole baby was here, and she just put her hand on the baby as if, no, you can't come get the baby. And it's like the woman literally just gave birth, like she can't get up. She would, believe me, you put your hand on my. You say all this, I pushed you. I would have had to push you. Is that not fair? I know that it's not Christian. That's not like a Christian thing. But if you say I pushed you and you call security and I have me on camera not pushing you, I'm going to turn the camera off and push you. The Lord is still working on me, folks. This is why you can't mess with people. You don't know where they are. You don't know where they are and all that. Scott, all right, I got to go, guys. It's 8:03. I'm hungry. I've got to do notes. I got to do notes. All right, guys. We all understand each other. Yeah. And Allison, what is your oddball behavior? I like to have babies. Woo! I love it. Yeah. See you guys tomorrow. Like I said, it's probably gonna be Costco. I'll explain later. Probably gonna be whispering. I am ThreePlusKei. I am here to encourage you to pursue the smile by prioritizing the Lord, your physical health, and persistent education. Talk to you later.